Thanks for checking out this horror movie superlatives video. So this is covering 2004, and if you're new to this, just know that you watch my video, you get my picks for the certain categories for superlatives for 2004 horror films. Then you go to your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete's channel, which is linked in the description. Watch his video of the same name, and then if you want to, you can come back here and you can vote on who you think had the best picks, or even say that it's a tie in the poll that I have on the community tab. So go ahead and check that out. And yeah. I'll just say up front, because usually at the end people are already done. Subscribe to our channels if you want to support us at all. Thumbs up on the videos if you want to support us at all, and you can hit the notification bell button, and that way you'll know when we're putting up videos. But let me get into it. My picks for 2004. The most amazing film, this shouldn't be a big surprise to people, but that has got to be Shaun of the Dead. This is the most amazing horror film to come out in 2004, in my opinion. There were some other films that I considered, but this one ultimately won out for a few things. Obviously, it's basically about a slacker who's kind of down on his luck and hating life because of his job primarily, and just a ho-hum life. And then all of a sudden, society becomes zombified around him. There's an apocalypse. And he's kind of unaware of it at first, but then he ends up having to rise to the occasion and be the hero that he needs to be for those who depend upon him. It's a comedy. It's a horror comedy. And the reason I ended up going with this one is because a few reasons. One, it's bringing something interesting and unique to a subgenre of horror that is so played out. And at this point in 2004, it was already played out at that point, zombies. This was the only type of film that could really inject any life into that subgenre, and it really did. It's a different take. It's very funny. The comedy actually lands. Horror comedies, good ones, are really hard to find because being able to write the proper mixture between the horror and the comedy is actually quite difficult. And Simon Pegg and Nick Frost did a phenomenal job. Edgar Wright with directing on this one, and it's wonderful. It's an outstanding film. It even has a lot of heart to it. So, like I said, perfect mix of the horror element. There's some emotion to it, some good impact, and plenty of wonderful comedic moments. I adore this film. I know a lot of people also adore this film. That's why my pick for most amazing for 2004, Shaun of the Dead. Now going to the next category, the best so bad it's good film. I actually don't own this one, but I kind of feel like I want to. And that is the Hugh Jackman starring film Van Helsing. That movie sucks. When you look at it as far as story goes, as far as just throwing way too much at the screen, the acting is good actors, but the performances are just very over the top. Everything just looks too cartoony and ridiculous and over the top, and it is a joy to watch, though. It's one of those movies that when it first came out, everyone was like, this is crap, this is terrible. I remember watching it the first time and just being like, yeah, this is crap, this is terrible. And then every time after that, I ended up seeing portions of it. I was just like, you know what, though? It's very entertaining. So it really has become such a so bad it's good film for me. For people who haven't seen it, it's basically about Van Helsing, who's, the vampire slayer, who's going after Dracula, and Hugh Jackman plays Van Helsing. But there's a werewolf in it, there's a Frankenstein's monster in it, they just throw so much. Renfield is in there. Like, they throw everything in there. There are, like, Dracula's brides as vampires. Also, for people who might want to know, Kate Beckinsale is in it and does a phenomenal job. The actors are great. It's a wonderful cast. The film should have done a lot better than it did, but the script is just bad. But great thing, because now it's a so bad it's good film. So yeah, I highly encourage people who like so bad it's good films and have not seen Van Helsing to go ahead and check that one out. So my pick for so bad it's good 2004, Van Helsing. Now the category of most WTF, and I just finally watched this film. It's one that I've been meaning to get to for years. It was part of the French extremity movement, and it's called Calvaire. It is currently, when I'm recording this, on the Shudder streaming service to watch. This film is just weird. The reason I'm picking it as WTF is because you never really know where it's going. It's very weird, and it's hard to figure out for a while in the film what they're trying to go for here. What are they trying to say? Because it's very clear that there's subtext to it. And in the end, the subtext really does work. It's just a weird film with a lot of moments where you're just like, WTF. So the film is about a performer, a singer, who ends up going on a trip, and his van breaks down in this very small, or near this very small village. He ends up being taken in by a old innkeeper whose inn doesn't really operate as much anymore. And the guy's a little bit off, but then we also find out that pretty much everyone in the village is off. And, there's things like getting intimate with animals that people in the village do. And, yeah, in the end, the film actually ends up being a lot about male society, patriarchal society, and how it projects onto others, onto females, or whoever they end up deeming to be female or want to be a certain way. So it really ends up becoming a lot about projection of masculine people to, you're going to be who I want you to be for my purpose, not because that's who you are, like objectification. And it's a wild one. There's a lot of stuff at the end that gets like very weird, and it's enhanced by the fact that the way that it's shot a lot of the times are very kind of disorienting, and that increases that kind of WTF factor where you're just like, what is going on, and why is this getting so frantic at this point? And then it slows down so much, because it is a pretty slow-paced film, but then it has these spurts of just like being like ridiculous and over the top and frantic, and you're just like what is going on? It's kind of like sensory overload at that point. But I'm not sure I would recommend seeing the film, because it's not like a great film. It's okay, subtextually quite good, but entertainment wise, not very entertaining. But yeah, my pick for most WTF for 2004, Calvert. Next category is best gore, and I'm not a big Zack Snyder fan, but the remake of Dawn of the Dead is actually a good film, and there's really great gore in there, to be honest. They went really hard on the gore. There's copious amounts of it. The parts where they're like sniping or the one guy is sniping zombies in the parking lot of the mall, like the brain matter just going all over the place, and the wounds, they look so good. One of the scenes that I like a lot is when one of those zombies gets like something, I forget what it was, but something shoved through the bottom of their head, and it goes all the way out the top. And then of course there's like the zombie baby that ends up showing up in this film. I don't really need to say what this is about. It's a zombie apocalypse, and people end up getting holed up together in a mall to try and survive, and zombies are trying to get in. So I mean, that's basically it. There's not a whole lot of story to it, but man, the gore is great. They went very hard on the gore. I really do think this had the best gore of 2004. Also, just remember, like, the cast: Sarah Polley, Ving Rhames, Mekhi Phifer. They have Jake Weber on here. No one knows who Jake Weber is at this point, but yeah, a really nice cast, and it's actually a good film. There really aren't that many solid to good remakes, and I think this is a good remake of the original Dawn of the Dead. Obviously, the original by Romero is the best, but yeah, great gore in this. So that's why Dawn of the Dead remake is my pick for the best gore for 2004, and that rhymes. All right, my next category is the most unique, and for that I have to go with Three Extremes. I'm not sure how many people out there have actually seen this. It's literally a compilation of 3 short films that was released in the United States by really awesome Asian directors. So we have Takashi Miike from Japan, we have Hong Kong's Fruit Chan, and we have Chan-wook Park from South Korea. So they're hitting different countries. And each short is very good. Takashi Miike's, I'm not really going to say much about what they're about because they're short films. I don't want to ruin too much. I would highly recommend seeing this, especially if you like any of those directors or all of those directors. Takashi Miike's is typical Takashi Miike. It's very nightmare feeling, like nightmarish fever dream, a lot of like weird creepy scenes. There's amazing sound design in it from what I remember too, especially the scene involving like the manipulation of this doll, like the sound design really sticks out and it's creepy. That one's great. The one by Fruit Chan is really awesome, and actually ended up turning into a feature-length film later on called Dumplings, about people eating something special with their dumplings. That one's very beautifully shot, and that turned me on to Fruit Chan as a director. It's a great one. And then the third one is one by Chan-wook Park from South Korea, and one of my favorite directors of all time, Chan-wook Park. The film takes a very interesting twist to it, so the story is really there for that one, but it also has outstanding visuals, which you would expect from that director. And it's kind of a little Saw-esque, but better than a Saw movie in a way. Check it out for sure. It's called Cut. It's really, really great. So anyway, that's why my pick for the most unique of 2004 is Three Extremes. I mean, just the idea of putting three short films from these amazing directors into one release is unbelievable. Very unique idea. Three Extremes. Highly recommend. So then going to the most overrated category, and that has to be for me The Grudge, starring Sarah Michelle Gellar. Now, is it a terrible movie? No. But does it pale drastically in comparison to the original film called Ju-on? Yes. And that's the main reason I picked it as the most overrated. People did really like it when it originally came out in 2004 in the United States. It was following on the footsteps of The Ring being very popular after the Gore Verbinski remake was put out there that was based off of Ringu out of Japan. And then it was the next movie of like, wait a minute, we took a cool like Ghost Girl movie from Japan and remade it in the United States, and it did really well, and it was a great film. Why don't we try and do that again? So they found Ju-on, they gave it a big budget, and it just didn't work. You know, I've seen both the films. Ju-on is vastly better, way more creepy, feels a lot better story-wise, and sometimes bigger isn't better, and this is a clear representation of that. It is interesting that they decided to actually still set it in Japan, because they take Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. She's a nurse, she's living in Tokyo, and then she moves into this place, and ghost stuff, you know, there's this creepy ghost girl with long black hair, you know, and there's all sorts of things. There is one cool scene in it where she's like in the shower. You'll know what I'm talking about. It's not about nudity, you guys. It has to do with something creepy that happens there. But yeah, anyway, not a great film, so my most overrated has got to be The Grudge. So now coming to one of my favorite categories, the most underrated films. And this is interesting because it goes back to what I was saying about Shaun of the Dead. There are not that many horror comedies that are actually good, that walk that line of having really good comedy and some fun horror elements. But Club Dread, Broken Lizard's Club Dread, and yes, this is a VHS, Broken Lizard's Club Dread is, I think, the most underrated film of 2004. This is an amazing mixture of really hilarious comedy with a really good slasher, honestly. It's about this island. What's the island called? It's Coconut Pete's Pleasure Island. It's literally a character played by Bill Paxton that's based off of Jimmy Buffett. And people say all the time, one of my favorite things in the movie is that people say, oh, you did the song Margaritaville. And he's like, it's Pina Coladaburg. So it's very, very funny. But if you like Super Troopers or any of their other stuff, they do a phenomenal job comedy-wise in this one as well. The acting is a lot of fun. They have a lot of weird, just funny, ridiculous characters in it that are great, but there's actually like good kills in it. It's like fun and gory at the same time as it is just funny. And it's really also this interesting dichotomy of like the horror that's going on, and then you have the comedy, and then you have it in like this very nice, bright, tropical setting. It's just very unique. So this actually could have gone into the unique category, but I think it's more just underrated. It is a very fun film. I highly recommend it. It's been too long since I watched this last, so I think I'm going to need to pop this into my VCR. Yes, I have 2 VCRs, by the way, still, that work. But yeah, it is phenomenal. My pick for most underrated 2004, Club Dread. Check it out if you have not. You're missing out. So yeah, those are all my picks. Like I said, please feel free to thumbs up, subscribe my channel and Uncle Pete's. Also, if you have picks that you want to let us know about for the year, you can put it in the comments, and you can just copy and paste to both of our videos, because we don't like read the comments on each other's necessarily. Sometimes, but not always. But yeah, that'd be great. And then, just any comments you want. Thank you so much for everyone for participating in this with us. We really appreciate the views and just people, commenting on these things, because talking nerdy about horror is something we both enjoy. But thanks so much for your time, and until next time, keep it brutal.